This is Sahant, and you're watching Mezrab Storytelling, stories from around the world. Once a month, storytellers gather in the Mezrab Cafe to tell true stories. This is one of them.
So I'm Laura, and I was a little bit inspired by Sam's story with coming to Amsterdam, and I thought, I had that thought when I came to Amsterdam about what was the theme?
I've made a terrible mistake.
You made a terrible mistake. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about that. I was living in Lisbon, and I have a history of acting very impulsively with things. So at one point in my life, I quit my job, and I very naively told my dad, yes, I quit my job, and I don't know what I'm gonna do, but you know, you're working so hard every day, and one of us has to jump. And he was like, what? No. So it was like, yeah. And then I left. I'm from Romania, from the other end of Europe. And then I left Romania kind of impulsively on an idea that I had when I was a little girl, that I wanted to learn Portuguese. And I moved to Lisbon to volunteer. So then here I was about a year and a half later, after arriving in Lisbon, after having volunteered, and then seeing that actually the place that I thought would be my ideal place where I would live happily ever after turned out to be not so suitable for me. And I was working in a hostel for about €3.25 per hour with Portugal. With the sole constellation that I was working in a hostel, so that was kind of nice, and it wasn't an office job, and I was meeting interesting people, and then I was kind of waiting for something to happen, and I had a list of things that I wanted to do, and they were ranging from going to Mongolia to traveling in South America to all sorts of stuff. And then at one point, one of the things was that I wanted to go to Peru and do an ayahuasca ceremony. And I was working for €3.20 an hour, so at one point I said, okay, this is never gonna happen, I'm not gonna afford this trip, so whatever. I tried to do an ayahuasca ceremony in Portugal, it didn't really work out at the time. So then I was, and I was also kind of deconstructing my life. I was questioning the status quo, and why do people do what they do, and why do people go out in the weekend, and I was not, like what is this that everyone, and I had these, I remember going on Friday evening in the tram at like 12 o'clock, I was going home, and there was these beautiful black women, there are a lot of black people in Lisbon, beautiful black women which were all poshed up and going to the club, and I was sitting kind of like on a chair, and you can, in some chairs you can put your feet up, so I was like this and just waiting for something to happen in my life, and for having an impulse to do something, and I decided to wait until something felt right. And then this one day I was working in the hostel and being at the reception, and then this guy comes. And he was walking really funnily, and then he said that he just ran a marathon that day. It's like, okay, he came to Lisbon to run a marathon. And then we had this funny conversation, and he was kind of cute, and he was tall and blonde and Dutch. So he was kind of cute, and then in the evening we would have a cook who cooked in the hostel, and there was nobody, for some reason that evening there wasn't much happening in the hostel, not many people checking in or out, so I could have dinner with him. And then we had this long conversation, which lasted until my shift ended at midnight, and then at one point around 3 o'clock we were kissing on the beanbags in the hostel. So, and then we kind of spent about 4 days together, which were really beautiful, and we felt very seriously about each other, that we want to be together. It was, and then he came back to Amsterdam on a Wednesday, and then on the Thursday we were planning to meet at the end of the month, which was New Year's Eve. It was December, so we were planning to meet at the end of the month. And then on the Thursday we were WhatsApping, and I said, hey, I have 3 days free, which never happened to have a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday free. And I said, hey, I have 3 days free. I could come and see you tomorrow. What do you think? And he said, wow, great, that's really cool. So then there I was on a plane to Amsterdam to see this guy that I had met 4 days ago. And we had a beautiful weekend, very cool weekend. And then I came again for New Year's Eve, and it was beautiful. We went to this techno party, and we took drugs, and we were very in love. And the coolest thing is that the very night we met, we were talking, and then he told me, oh, I'm gonna go on a big trip in 2 months. And I said, really, where are you going? And he said, to Peru. So I was like, what? You're going to Peru? And then it ended up that we decided that I go to Peru with him, and then we can test the relationship. And then as I wasn't really, yeah, so familiar. So then it was like, we can test the relationship, and I didn't really have anything it was temporary. My house was temporary, and my job was temporary, and then I was like, great, I can just leave everything and come and try this. And then the trip, it was Peru, and it was beautiful, and we did the ayahuasca ceremony, and it was amazing. But it didn't really feel right. It was like, nah, this isn't really going as we planned. The lovey-dovey, we were fighting a lot, and there was a lot of tension, and then we flew back, and I knew this kind of, it was like, I didn't really feel right, but then I didn't have any money, and this was also, we were thinking maybe it didn't work out because we were traveling, maybe it's different if we're, at home. So then we kind of talked about it, and we said, yeah, okay, let's try it. So then I came to Amsterdam, and we really tried it. And it was really exasperating for both of us. And we really had the best intention, because we were so in love in the beginning. And we thought, come on, this has to work. And it didn't, of course. So after about half a year, we decided to call it quits. And then it was every day this is a terrible mistake that I made. And then I've been thinking tonight, okay, how should I end the story, and what should this be about? And then I think what's really relevant for me right now is that at that time is when things started being temporary in my life. So they were temporary in Lisbon, and then they were kind of temporary in Amsterdam. And after breaking up with him, I was really lucky to have friends where I could stay in their places and not pay rent. And yeah, it's like very, very lucky. There's a saying in Romanian that to the blind bird, God makes a nest. So it was kind of like that. And then everything has been very temporary, and I've kind of not committed or not chosen anything, because let's see how it goes, da-da-da. And in the meantime, what's happened is that I've kind of grown up. It's been like a rite of passage, and I'm not doing things so impulsively anymore, and I'm kind of seeing things more in the long run, and that okay, you can just take a step and another step and another step, and it doesn't have to be like that. It can take time. And my motto is trees take a long time to grow. So now I'm just taking my time to grow and not expecting every day to be spectacular. And then my friends were telling me, your story needs to have a moral, it needs to have a moral. So I guess, and I was like, okay, what's the moral? And then I thought, well, the moral is that I hope I'll never have to leave everything in my life and go for something just because it feels right. But I know that if the opportunity comes, I'll do it again.